So I wanted to briefly take some time today to talk about my thoughts on the Modern Warfare 2 beta after the whole weekend of playing it. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some videos about it by now, so I don't want to rehash things for too long that you've all heard before. So I'm just going to kind of blaze through my thoughts before I have a broader discussion about Call of Duty in general and where it sits in FPS. Generally, I don't really like this game. Much like Modern Warfare 2019, it's nice looking with very slick animations, but the game is bogged down to a glacial pace by Call of Duty standards. I don't like the minimap with no red dots. I don't like the ledge hanging mechanic that makes vaulting annoying and a pain in the ass. The menus and UI are a straight up downgrade. They're nonsensical and illogical, and it feels really strange after the previous games, which I think had very good menu design. Some of the new modes aren't very good. I thought the hostage rescue mode was a little bit less engaging and underwhelming compared to search and destroy, and the invasion mode, which you're seeing on your screen right now, feels kind of odd. It definitely feels like it's supposed to be the most casual mode. It kind of reminds me of Plunder and Warzone. It feels like something that's just there for you to shoot your gun and turn off your brain without any real stakes or sense of urgency. This mode is also where we see the AI soldiers that Infinity Ward has been hyping up, and to me, this is a straight up dud of a feature. The AI is, at best, annoying. It kind of reminds me of the AI from the Titanfall games. In fact, it kind of feels like a direct ripoff, but they don't really make combat more engaging or entertaining, and they can often get you killed if you directly shoot at them since you're revealing your position to the enemy. It feels like they're just there to be fodder for low skill players, which is fine I guess, but mostly it just messes with the pace of the game. At least in Titanfall, the AI soldiers could provide a way for low skill players to score points without risking themselves to the enemy. Ground War is once again, in my opinion, an overrated mess of a mode. They're doing conquest from Battlefield, which would be cool if it weren't for all of the Call of Duty bloat and cheese added into the mode. Having 64 players constantly spamming kill streaks makes this a terrible combined arms experience and just shows that the developers don't really understand what makes this kind of gameplay so great in older Battlefield games. Battlefield, you are the kill streak. If you need air support or artillery, get your squad and you hop into a helicopter and you go control the air around a point. Ground War, you can easily find yourself up against vehicles as well as chopper gunners, airstrikes, and UAVs that are constant and relentless. Infantry combat is utterly terrible if you don't want to find a camping spot and sit there for the whole game, and the existence of kill streaks really just encourages players to find a corner or a window, sit there and farm kills until they can call in those streaks. Footsteps are a pretty big mixed bag. There was a lot of hype around the new sound engine. For one, I love the directionality. In previous Call of Duty games, the enemy would often make no sound at all, even if they didn't have dead silence. This is especially apparent in Warzone, but in Modern Warfare 2, I can much more easily trust the direction of the footsteps. They did a really great job with that, and it sort of reminds me of the footsteps in World War III. However, the volume of the footsteps is just laughably loud. It sounds like somebody is pounding a drum constantly. That volume combined with the directionality essentially repeats the mistakes of Modern Warfare 2019 and turns them up, which just promoted constant camping and waiting to hear enemies coming without giving aggressive players the tools they need to counter this playstyle. Disbanding lobbies and no map voting are here again, unfortunately, alongside Activision's signature crushing SBMM, but the maps are much better in my experience. I really enjoyed playing on them compared to the last Modern Warfare. The gunsmith is also cool. I'm sure you've all seen that by now. I love that there's no slide canceling, and I'd love to see a similar treatment for bunny hopping if they also tone down the footsteps, though right now bunny hopping is really the only tool that aggressive players have to counter campers. I like that the guns take more skill, though I'd like to see them have a little less visual bounce and just more actual magnitude of recoil, and I also think the TTK is just way too fast. Either tone down the gun damage or increase the player health to 150. It's another thing that makes this feel like the slowest Call of Duty to date, since running out into the open will get you killed in a shot or two. And with all of that out of the way, I really just wanted to take some time to talk about Call of Duty in general, especially Modern Warfare. There's been so much discourse about this game, especially the minimap changes, and the Modern Warfare branch of Call of Duty has really started to draw in what I call the tacti bros of the FPS space. These are guys who typically play methodical, more realistic games like Insurgency Sandstorm, Hell Let Loose, Squad, Escape from Tarkov, and Arma. Generally, these players might struggle a bit more with the fast-paced arcade shooters that have longer TTKs and more tools for aggressive players to dominate. I'm not insulting these types of players, to be clear. I love tactical shooters and play them quite a bit, though I'm the opposite, where my heavy arcade shooter background often leads me to having overly aggressive and less team-oriented tendencies in games that don't really suit that style. Along with the tactical players are the casual players of Call of Duty, who don't really know how to use a traditional Call of Duty minimap and don't have an understanding of parkour spots on the map or powerful head glitches. Together, these two sets of modern COD players have been loudly in opposition of those who come from the older days of the franchise, mostly the era of Call of Duty 4 through Black Ops 2. And all this argument has really made me realize that Call of Duty, especially the Modern Warfare Warfare series finds itself in a really strange position that I don't think it can sustain for much longer. The game has changed a lot to accommodate and even promote more tactical styles of play. Maps have long sight lines, footsteps can be heard from a mile away with no persistent counter, the minimap essentially gives everyone the power of suppressors from older Call of Duty games, and the TTK is so fast that venturing into the open is an instant death sentence. All of this actually sounds like a game I really love, Insurgency Sandstorm, except Insurgency does this all way better. By leaning into the tactical side completely with a more minimal UI, the game has an incredibly tense and satisfying gameplay loop that demands teamwork, smart decision making, and high skill. Modern Warfare 2, however, is completely bogged down by the cheese and mechanics of arcade shooters being mixed in with these tactical mechanics. Kill streaks, perks like Tracker, Dead Silence, silly equipment like the inflatable decoy, and of course the completely immersion-breaking microtransactions that we'll inevitably get within a month or two of launch that overrun the game with media crossovers and immature humor. This is all to say that it feels like Modern Warfare is having an identity crisis and doesn't know what it wants to be anymore. And as such, the gameplay suffers. To me, it's kind of a bad tactical shooter and lacks a lot of the features that I expect from tactical shooters. And on the flip side, it's becoming kind of a bad arcade shooter at the same time. While I miss the days of old Call of Duty, I'm perfectly fine with the franchise reinventing itself and doing something different. I'd love for Call of Duty to make tactical shooters more accessible to the masses, but I don't want that tactical experience ruined by arcade cheese any more than I want the arcade experience to suffer because of tactical mechanics. I think Activision is finding themselves at a crossroads, but the thing is, I don't think that they have to choose. I think there are a good few ways that they can go about this. For one, I think the simplest solution is to just have two playlists in the games. One can be called tactical and one called traditional. Tactical can take a lot of the changes that we've seen to Modern Warfare lately and just dial them up. More modes with limited spawning, even more limited HUD, limited choice in equipment, no kill streaks or perks, or at least not the blatantly cheesy ones. Keep soldier health at 100. This is a playlist for really tense, less forgiving gameplay that would honestly just be a full replacement for hardcore. It would take a lot of teamwork and communication and smart decision making. And the traditional list would be just like it sounds, just good old traditional Call of Duty. Bring back the old minimap, turn up the movement speed and the strafe speed, have full access to equipment and kill streaks, bring back Ninja as a perk. Modern Warfare games have the player base to sustain both of these, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then Activision could just satisfy all Call of Duty players instead of alienating one to get the other. On the other hand, they do have two main development studios in Infinity Ward and Treyarch, so you could have them each make a game that's different. Infinity Ward could make the tactical shooters when they release a game, and Treyarch can make the arcade shooters when they release a game. I think this would be a perfectly fine compromise, but it does come at the cost of alienating part of the player base with each release. Obviously, Call of Duty will be fine for a while longer. It's still the most popular shooter on the market, and I do still enjoy it from time to time, but I do think some changes are in order to get this series focused. It can only cater to new players for so long before those new players become more skilled veteran players that want gameplay that is more focused. And when that happens, they might ditch Call of Duty and seek out something like Battlefield for combined arms, Insurgency for tactical shooters, or something like Apex for arcade shooters. That about sums up my thoughts, and I want to hear from all of you. You had a chance to play the beta, and if so, what did you think of it? What do you think of Call of Duty's place in the industry right now? Do you think the games are fine the way they are, or do they need some kind of change? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. Enjoyed the video? Feel free to drop a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next video.